How did Lil Wayne and Birdman go from kissing each other on the mouth?
Special delivery too.
Big Lack, how you doing, Wayne? Big Stone, everything good?
My bad. Look,
Got the whole family here. Now wait, tell me about the wipe it down.
So when you kiss a girl, right?
hey, I'm not a person he kissed.
To Birdman being implicated as one of those that wanted Lil Wayne dead.
Two rappers have been implicated in a plot to murder another rapper. Back in April, Lil Wayne's tour bus was attacked as he was traveling through Georgia. Performers Birdman and Young Thug have been named in an indictment. Joined now by 48 Hours Crime-Cider reporter Julia Dahl.
In the late 90s to the mid-2000s, Birdman and Lil Wayne were hip-hop's favorite father and son. And from the mid-2000s to the late 2010s, they had perhaps hip-hop's most successful label of this era, with Weezy, Drake, and Nicki dominating the charts. YMCMB was the label. Now, Birdman and Lil Wayne had the perfect hip-hop story. It was the story of how Birdman became the surrogate father of a young, talented prodigy, helped him get off the streets, and the young talent eventually became one of the greatest rappers ever. In fact, if you call Lil Wayne the GOAT, there are a number of people who would actually agree with you. Weezy's talent was and is ridiculous. The man wrote his first rap song at the age of 8, and he always knew that he wanted to be an MC. He met Birdman a year after this and joined Cash Money Records. Weezy was the youngest member of the label, but he also tried to kill himself 3 years after because his mother told him to stop hanging out with the folks from Cash Money, and she also wanted him to quit rapping. Lil Wayne put a hole in his own chest and was only saved by a cop who arrived at the right time.
At the age of 12 years old, I shot myself. I was in the house. Police knocked on the door. I was right there. They knocked the door down. Everybody jumped over my body to go get the guns and drugs and whatever they could find. It took one guy to stop right there and cuss everybody that hopped over me out. Like, what the f are y'all doing? They say, oh, no, we was going to see if it, what the f are y'all doing? We called the ambulance. A ambulance, do you not see this kid on the floor with this hole in his chest? He said, don't worry, my name's Uncle Bob. He was white as snow. The that hopped over me was blacker than me.
Was he a cop?
Yeah, he was a cop, and my life was saved by a white man. I don't know what racism is.
This tells you just how much Wayne wanted to be a rapper. He dropped out of school in 1997 when he was 14, and this was the same year that his journey with the Hot Boys began. Other members of the Hot Boys were Juvenile, BG, and Turk. The Hot Boys dropped their debut album, Get It How You Live, in the same year, and in the year 1999, they dropped an even more successful album, Guerrilla Warfare, which reached #1 on the Billboard Top R&B/Hip-Hop Albums chart and #5 on the Billboard 200. Weezy went solo after this and dropped his own debut album, The Block Is Hot, in November 1999. And Wayne's debut album was a massive hit. It debuted at #3 on the Billboard 200 and was certified platinum 2 months after its release. However, this golden era of Cash Money didn't last for long. Between 2001 to 2003, Cash Money saw a huge exodus of its artists, and apparently they all left for the same reason. 2 words: financial mismanagement. See, Birdman was accused of not paying his artist what was stipulated in their contract. But Wayne was the last man standing during this, and this was when Weezy had that incredible run of successful albums. Lil Wayne's second album was titled Lights Out, and he dropped his third album, 500 Degrees, in July 2002. Now, both albums weren't as successful as the first, and they only ended up going gold. But in June 2004, Lil Wayne released the first installation of one of hip-hop's best album series, The Carter, and this album has since been certified platinum. Wayne dropped The Carter 2 in December 2005, and The Carter 2 was even more successful than the first. The album debuted on the Billboard 200 and has since sold over 2 million copies. And it was after the success of this album that Lil Wayne was named the president of Cash Money, and it was also announced that he would be starting his own label, Young Money. During this period, Lil Wayne and Birdman were like two peas in a pod. See, they had a special relationship and saw themselves as father and son. It was more than just hip-hop. It was more than just a relationship between a label owner and his rapper. You see, Birdman saw himself as Wayne's father, and he believed he was responsible for him, especially because Lil Wayne's father abandoned the family when he was just 9 years old.
You and Wayne had like a kiss thing going on.
Facts. I know you got a child, you probably kiss him. You probably got a son and you kiss him.
Yeah.
You heard me? I always looked at Wayne as my son, and I always looked at it like, because I was in the streets, and I thought this might be the last time they ever see me. That's where that shit came from, started from, and I always today look at Wayne as my child. I was his father when he didn't have a father, since he was 9 years old.
Right.
And I love him like my own, and I give my life for him, and I'll take a life for him.
Birdman and Lil Wayne even released a joint album, and they gave it a title that pretty much describes their relationship, like father, like son. Weezy didn't drop an album for the next 2 years. Instead, he chose to do features with various rappers and R&B artists so as to increase his exposure to the mainstream. Lil Wayne's next album was released in 2008, The Carter 3. And I don't think I need to tell anyone just how great The Carter 3 is. But if you need a reminder, Weezy achieved perfection on this album. And you could say The Carter 3 is his magnum opus. It had songs like Lollipop and I'm Millie, and The Carter 3 sold over 1 million copies in its first week, and this album won 3 Grammys the following year.
I just want to say thank God, thank New Orleans, thank these people you see right here, and thank you.
Wayne was at the peak of his career, and in 2008, there was truly no other MC on Weezy's level. Lil Wayne didn't release The Carter 4 until August 2011. The Carter 4 was hugely successful, as it debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 900,000 copies in its first week. But I've gotta say, it was just not as good as Carter 3. After The Carter 4, everyone was now looking forward to one thing: The Carter 5. Unfortunately, this was when the problems began. See, this was meant to be the holy grail, and Young Money started teasing artists about this album. Drake tweeted Carter 5 in February 2014. Lil Wayne then told the fans that the album would be released on the 5th of May 2014. However, by December 2014, Carter 5 still hadn't been released yet. A new release date was then set for December 9th, 2014. But on the 4th of December, just 5 days before the day everyone was waiting for, Lil Wayne shocked the entire world with a series of tweets detailing why The Carter 5 hadn't been released. He revealed that the album hadn't been released because Birdman, aka Baby, and Cash Money had refused to release it. Then he stated that he felt like a prisoner at Cash Money, and his creativity was being imprisoned as well. Now, Weezy stated that this wasn't his fault, and he continuously apologized to his fans before he dropped the bomb that he no longer wanted to be on Cash Money. About a month and a half later, after this tirade of tweets, Lil Wayne sued Birdman and Cash Money for $51 million. And this lawsuit was quite complicated. It revealed that, just as you would expect, Wayne had signed multiple contracts with Cash Money over the years. Now, the first of these contracts was Lil Wayne's first deal that he signed in 1998. Then he signed a new agreement in 2003, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2009, and 2012. Now, the 2012 agreement stated that Lil Wayne had agreed to make 4 additional albums for Cash Money and 1 duet album, and this deal was worth $40 million to Weezy. This contract promised Wayne $10 million for every solo album he released, $8 million up front from the moment he began working on the album, and the additional $2 million after he delivers the finished album. Lil Wayne's 2003 agreement allowed him to create and own Young Money Records, and he was to get 49% of the label's profits. While his 2008 agreement stated that Cash Money would give Lil Wayne and Young Money monthly accounting updates of all the incomes and cost of Young Money operations. Wayne's 2009 agreement, which is famously called the Drake Letter Agreement, stated that Lil Wayne was to get a third of all earnings of all net profits from Drizzy's recordings. And you've got to admit that all of these sound like pretty good contracts for Lil Wayne. Well, but it's only a good deal if Birdman pays what has been agreed, isn't it? Because, guess what? Cash Money failed to provide any of those monthly accounting updates that were agreed in the contract. They also didn't give Wayne any accounting updates on the money made from Drake's career, which also means Lil Wayne was not paid any money from the profits that was made from Drizzy's music. None. Zilch. Man, I have to repeat that again. Lil Wayne did not get a dime from guiding Drake to become one of the best-selling artists of all time. And if you think that's bad, the lawsuit also stated that Cash Money also failed to register Young Money as being partly owned by Lil Wayne at all. Cash Money also failed to pay Young Money artists any of their royalties. And this was obviously the reason why Tyga sued the label for $10 million. Cash Money also failed to pay the $8 million up front and the $2 million after for the Carter 5 album. So, the summary of this lawsuit that equates to $51 million is the $8 million agreed for the Carter 5 album, $5 million for failing to register Lil Wayne's 49% ownership of Young Money, $13 million for shares of Weezy and Young Money's album sales that Birdman failed to account for, and $25 million because Cash Money allowed all the previous agreements we talked about to fall apart. So, the $51 million figure doesn't even include the money that Wayne wasn't paid for Drake, Nicki, and Tyga's careers. But this wouldn't even be the first time that Birdman would be accused of this. Remember, we talked about many Cash Money artists leaving the label for the same reason earlier. Now, another report even stated that there was a time Cash Money was making $1 million per month. So, rather than pay the artists what they were owed, Birdman allegedly had the brilliant idea of buying a luxury car and told the guys that the car belonged to everyone. Man, you just gotta appreciate the genius that Birdman is. But rather than settle or pay the man that Birdman called his son what he was owed, it seemed he chose a more final option. Because on the 24th of April 2015, Lil Wayne's tour bus was shot by a man called Jimmy Winfrey, aka Pee Wee Roscoe, who was Young Thug's road manager. So, everyone assumed that Wayne was shot because of the beef between him and Young Thug. But Pee Wee is also associated with none other than, you guessed it, Birdman himself, as they had both been seen in numerous pictures together. The shooting happened after Wayne had just finished performing at a place called The Compound in Thugger City, Atlanta. Pee Wee pulled up to this location with an assault rifle in his car. He was also heard by witnesses saying, "This is my city. Keep fucking around and I'll spray the bus." Because of this, the cops decided to escort Wayne's tour bus as they got back on the highway. But this didn't stop Pee Wee from following them. One of the cops stated that Pee Wee's white Chevy was following them. But after the bus reached a new jurisdiction of Cobb County, the police had to stop escorting them. And it was at this point that Pee Wee indeed sprayed Lil Wayne's tour bus. Now, immediately after the shooting, Pee Wee turned into another road and then made a call to a number that was linked to Lil Wayne's bald-headed tattooed surrogate father, yes, Birdman. The cops also claim that around 3 a.m., Thugger called Pee Wee 8 times, just minutes before the shooting. A jailhouse call between Pee Wee and Birdman was also revealed later, where Birdman could be heard telling the shooter to come collect his money.
Time for you to come out here and get this money, don't you? Well, my nigga, you done blessed. You did everything you could do, bro. It's an eye opener, bro. You know what I'm saying? While you're on that strictly business, man.
Some people even believe that the recording was the phone call that happened immediately after Pee Wee shot the bus. The driver of the tour bus, Alvin Lewis, also filed a lawsuit that states that Pee-wee shot the bus because Birdman promised to pay him $250K and also give him a Porsche. Which makes you wonder, so he could pay the shooter but not pay Lil Wayne. Pee-wee was hit with a 30-count charge that included the shooting. He eventually accepted a plea deal that saw him sentenced to 20 years in jail. But for Lil Wayne, he and Birdman finally announced a settlement on the 7th of June 2018. Now, no one knows what the actual figures are, as it is covered by an NDA, but what we do know is that it's definitely an 8-figure settlement. The Carter 5 was eventually released months after the settlement on the 28th of September 2018. And thankfully, Lil Wayne is no longer trapped in the claws of the very honest businessman that is Birdman.